Welcome to the ezyCollect demo. So, what is ezyCollect? Ultimately, ezyCollect is an end-to-end data management platform. And what that means is that we try to help streamline the whole accounts receivable process from order to cash. So what that looks like is we have from when you start working with a customer for the first time, or even during the sales process, you're trying to figure out who do I give credit terms to. From that to the credit application process, customer onboarding, collecting payment details, and then how do you manage the customer once they are onboarded, from when you're sending invoices, reminders, and collecting payment, all the way back into reconciling that back into your accounting system. ezyCollect on average saves typically about 70% of the manual chasing and payment allocation process. And also we tend to, depending on industry, reduce overdues by between 50 to 60% on average. So let's have a look at how ezyCollect works and some of the most up-to-date features that we have available in the end of 2023. I will share my screen now, and I'm actually going to start at the beginning of a customer life cycle. So what we're looking at here is the ezyCollect Credit Insights ABN lookup. So this is where, imagine you've got a salesperson and they've got an inbound request from a customer that is asking for credit terms. And they're trying to figure out, should I give this customer a credit application, or should I enforce our policy of, you have to trade with us COD for a few months before we will even consider giving you credit terms. So what they would do is they would put in an ABN number or a business name and get a credit score. So I'll just look up ourselves for this. Look up ezyCollect. So when this ABN lookup, this works in conjunction with our partnership with Dun & Bradstreet, also known as Illion. So we can see here what once I've searched up the ABN or the business name, we get a late payment risk score and we get a failure risk score at the same time. So fortunately, good thing for ezyCollect, it's low in both cases. So it has a probability of us paying late and a probability of experiencing stress or failure within the next 12 months. So that might be enough for a lot of requests, but if you want more information to not really be sure if you want to give credit terms or not to a customer, this is when you get a credit report. So there's a certain number of these credit reports that you would get included with a subscription to ezyCollect if you were using our credit risk module. And the ones that are included are the 60-month credit reports. If you want like the full history of the business, you pay extra. So I'm just looking at a sample one here. This is actually for IBM, but just to give you an idea of what's included, it will include any legal events against the customer. It will show the corporate ownership and also director details. So we've had a lot of conversations with businesses in construction, for instance, where this director section is particularly useful because they might see, oh, this director has a history of businesses that have gone into administration. So that could be a red flag for a Phoenix company. And so you might not even want to send a credit application form to that customer. You might just send them a cash application form or just put them on COD. So this credit score lookup, this is the first step of the customer journey. Now you've decided in this example there's a low risk and you want to give a credit application to the customer. So what you do is in ezyCollect you can create a digital credit application. And we do this because we know that it's most common to create a PDF credit application. And there's quite a bit of friction involved in that process. The customer has to usually print it out, fill it, scan it, send it back. And the more steps there are in that process, the more likely it is that it will be delayed in the filling out process, and that will delay the sale. And it will also mean a lot of manual checking when it comes to trade references and so forth. So we streamline that by providing a link. So in this case, it would be in URLs. It would be kind of like yourbusiness.ezycreditapp.com.au, and then you put in a business number, and you can see here that the customer, if they put in their ABN or their New Zealand business number, and I mean, we can also do other countries, but Australia and New Zealand are currently the ones where it'll pre-fill, they can start filling it out here. So in here, maybe we'll just show as an example, make sure the business, we'll go alcohol and employees 10. I won't go through the whole credit application here. If you want more details, I'd be very happy to do an in-person demo with you. But you get the gist, right? So there's a lot of different sections along here. So it's collecting all the important information about the customer. Do they have their contacts? If you want to have, specific roles for the contacts, like billing contact, delivery contact, sales contact, all that sort of thing. Very happy to modify the credit application to have whatever specific fields are necessary for any business's particular process. And we can also decide if you want to make it mandatory or not mandatory, whatever kind of fields you need. At a certain point, you can also, when it gets to asking about the documents to upload, a lot of the time, we'll have the identity documents such as the driver's license. If we want, though, you can also upload a director's guarantee. So that's something that, again, in certain industries is particularly important. So a lot of our clients, when they have credit application, this is all that they need. But increasingly, especially in some industries like the equipment hire industry, they really want to also capture payment details at the same time that they're capturing all the rest of the information. So we recently released direct debit collection for the credit application. So I've just got one here where it has the payment authorization. Customer would put in their credit card details. This is all secure and encrypted with our merchant provider Stripe, so you don't have to worry about any security issues. But once they fill that in, that will be stored securely with the merchant, and then the credit application will come through into ezyCollect once it is completed. So you can see here the credit applications, there's some that are pending and they have not yet been processed, and then there's some that have been processed now. So I'll just go into one that we've already processed just to show you an example. This one, you can see what's been filled out by the customer. Any documents will be viewable here. And it also will actually come with a credit score and a credit report as well. So we try to make it like an all-in-one solution in case in a lot of situations you might not have looked up the credit score separately beforehand. If you want, you can also do things like write notes on reference checks. And when you've decided if you're going to approve the application or not, then if you would put the details in here of whatever credit limit you've approved them for. Once that's done, it will generate a PDF that you can store in your records. So imagine the next stage of this process is you would go into your accounting system and you would set up the customer. Now you're probably wondering what happened to that payment details that we just collected. So once you've created your customer account in your ERP, you sync the ERP with ezyCollect, and actually ezyCollect would be automatically syncing every day with your ERP at minimum, but you can also manually sync it whenever you need. So in this example, you created your new customer, you sync it, and then once it shows up, you can go into direct debit mapping, and it will have, hey, these are some of the direct debit authorities that are currently not attached to a particular customer record. And then you would go in and it's already proposing a particular customer name. So you would just, if that's the correct one, you would then just confirm the mapping like this. And then it will show that that direct debit authority is associated with the customer. How are we going to use that direct debit authority? I'll talk about that in just a moment. But let's think about now, we've got a customer onboarded, and they're now part of, part of our database. So you want to send out an invoice to a customer. So this is where a lot of the more debtor management side of ezyCollect comes in, and I will I'll go straight into the automated communication side of what we do. This was actually the very first thing that we created in ezyCollect all the way back in 2015, and it still is, to a very large extent, the engine room of a lot of the time saving and efficiencies that we can bring to clients. So you send out your initial invoice to a customer, and you can send that out through ezyCollect, or you might choose to send that out through your ERP. It's optional whether you want to do that. For different ERPs, there's different advantages to doing it different ways. And then according to the credit terms, we're going to be looking at when is the invoice due, or when is actually the oldest invoice due if they have multiple ones. So from here, we then can set up a workflow of automated communication. So pre-reminder, and then up to 6 overdue reminders. These can include emails, text messages, phone calls, etc., statements, and thank you messages. So you can set this up once, it doesn't have to be like per customer. It's instead to do with a group of customers. So I'd say the majority of our clients actually just need one workflow, but we also do deal with, businesses that have subsidiaries or have different customer profiles that they want to have different communications go out to those groups, and we can accommodate both of those. The point is you set this up once, and then it will automatically tick along in the background for you, chasing your customers according to the rules that you have set up, and it's like having an extra person in accounts receivable helping you chase debtors. So what do one of these reminders look like? I've mocked one up here. You can see here I've decided to make it look really branded. Some customers really prefer that. Other customers prefer not to have any branding, or they prefer to have it a bit more casual seeming, kind of like their accounts person just sat down and wrote an email, because they don't want customers to know that it came from a system. So we can do either way. I would actually say a lot of our customers don't put too much branding in. They might just have their logo at the bottom. Again, it's all very personalizable, and we do sit with people and help them craft their reminders through here. So the reminder template, it'll pre-populate a lot of the customer's details according to these merge fields we've got along the side. We've even got an AI powered tool that can help generate some of these templates. And we can also attach the invoice copies to the reminders as well. And the reason why we did this is because we know that it's a very common excuse that customers give for late payment. They'll say, oh, I didn't get the invoice copy. So we want to make sure that that this sort of repetitive task is eliminated from an accounts receivables person's requirements. So just going back to the template here, we can see this is what a customer would receive. They've got multiple invoices owing, and if there's things like a credit note or something like that, that can also be included in a statement if necessary. So now let's imagine we are the customer and we've received this reminder. Well, first of all, we're receiving this reminder from the email address that was chosen by our client. So, accounts at abccompany.com. They don't see that it's coming from ezyCollect. So they can see here everything that they need, and then they see a little payment button. So we create this payment button because we know that a lot of the processes involved in paying is, again, there's friction in it. And the more friction there is in a process, the more likely it is that you're going to put it into the I'll do it later bucket. And that's, even a customer that wants to pay on time can quite frequently find themselves paying late purely because of friction in payment processes. So we like to say at ezyCollect, we make it easy for the customer to do the right thing. So it's good for them and it's good for our client, the supplier. Customer clicks on the payment link and they get taken to a payment portal like this. And we can brand this with, of course, the supplier's details. So they can see here the invoices that they have outstanding. They can choose to download invoice copies if they want, and we can make the invoices look the same as the ones from the ERP, so there's consistency there. They can also download statements. They can save cards on file for their own use. And they can also raise questions about the payment with the supplier from here. So in terms of the payment options that we have available, we have 4. We have credit card, bank transfer, direct debit, and debtor financing. Now, not every business will want to use every single one of these payment options. Sometimes people just want to offer credit card, bank transfer, and we're flexible like that as well. So when a customer puts their details in here, again, it's all encrypted, all very secure. If they want, they can save their details on file for direct debit at the point of transaction. You can choose to surcharge merchant fees or not. It's up to you. And depending on the accounting software, it's also possible to set up that every time a payment is made, it will automatically go back into the accounting system and close off that outstanding invoice or sales order. So again, that's a big time saver. And the sales order, the way it would show would be kind of like this, where it would have the pre-fill with the amount, and then it would have sales order 1, 2, 3, like so. Sorry. So in terms of other payment methods, so we have bank transfer. So bank transfer is like a once-off direct debit. It's powered by our partner debtor in the back end, and again works very, very similarly to the credit card in terms of the way that it would allocate back into the ERP. Direct debit, this is where the customer can self-service choose to fill in their credit card or bank details here. Now, obviously, if you've already collected the direct debit details at the point of the credit application, that's great. You wouldn't need to do it a second time. This is more for clients that hadn't already done that, and you want to give them an opportunity to sign up for direct debit at this point. The last option that I'll just briefly talk about is the pay with installments option. Now, this is a different thing from payment plans, which I'll explain a little bit later, and that is tied to direct debit. But pay with installments is debtor financing, and we work with a third party called Cloudfloat to offer customers the option to split their payments over a period of 1, 2, or 3 months, and they pay every fortnight in this case. So this is a great option for businesses where their clients are asking for a payment plan, but they don't want to basically act as a bank. They want to get their money up front too, but they also know that their customer might need the extra time to pay. So it's a bit like Afterpay, except that the merchant doesn't pay the fee. The supplier is the one that gets paid upfront in full if the customer gets approved, and the customer is the one that pays the fees. Absolutely no risk to the merchant in that case. Looping back just briefly to direct debit and payment plans through direct debit. So let's say either we collected our direct debit authority from a customer at the point of the credit application, or they signed up through the payment portal, or you sent them a direct debit request form, which you can also do. How does it look, and how do you manage that in ezyCollect? So the accounts person in this case, when they want to actually process a payment, they would go into a customer page, and we can see here this customer's got direct debit authority acquired. And there's 2 ways to handle direct debit. The easiest way is to just keep on what we call auto collect. So that's where the customer, as soon as their invoice becomes due, if they have auto collect, it will deduct that and post that to the accounting software. So you don't have to press any buttons, you don't have to process anything manually, it will just do it for you. And we've even got groups of customers where they have direct debit and they have reminders automatically go out to the customer if their direct debit fails. So that's one way of doing direct debit. Another way is some customers might not be okay with auto collect. They might prefer for the supplier to call them up and say, hey, I'm about to charge your card. Are you okay with that? Yes. If so, what you just do is you turn off auto collect and you would just go into the invoice itself and you would then process it just by clicking collect now. So there's multiple ways that you can handle that. Regardless of whether you're doing auto collect or not, you can still use direct debit to do a payment plan. So this might, a use case for this, it's quite common, is where a customer might have purchased a really large piece of equipment, or maybe they've got some kind of construction project or something like that where there's a deposit that's required at the beginning. So maybe like $2,000. The total to be charged is going to be $60,000, and the installment amount is going to be $3,000 every fortnight until it's paid off. So you can create the payment plans like this. If you want, you can also do it kind of for fixed number of installments, or even a subscription. Perhaps for a subscription, it's often maybe for things like energy companies or software companies and things like that. Once you've created the payment plan, it will also send a notification to the customer to inform them, and you'll also be able to manage it by going into the dashboard. It will show you if there are any payment plans that have been paused due to insufficient funds or some other reason. But you can also use it to look at payment schedules, and it will tell you how much is coming in on different days depending on your direct debit agreements and your payment plans. So that's a very new feature that's recently been released in ezyCollect, and we've already seen a huge amount of interest for it. So moving on from payments, let's talk now about the day-to-day activities of an accounts receivable person, because we've talked about a lot of the automation side of ezyCollect, but there's still going to be some circumstances where a customer will need to be chased by a human being. And we've even got that set up in our communication rules. If there was a phone call, that will generate a task for the accounts person when the phone call is due. So the accounts person would get an email in their inbox saying, hey, Barbara, here's the 10 customers for you to call today. They would go into their task tab, they would see them all here. So it will actually show them not only phone calls, but also any customers that are at the stage of debt collection. So when they're ready to make the call, they will just go in here. We've already seen a page like this. This one just doesn't have direct debit authority, but they would be able to go and complete their task, write notes against a customer. They'd also be able to send ad hoc communications to a customer using, again, the AI tool or some of the saved templates that they can store. They can also treat different customers according to whatever circumstance is required. So if they have a customer that has given them a promise to pay, they can either pause the whole account, or they can add a promise against an individual invoice. Regardless, ezyCollect won't chase during that time. And all of this communications that are being sent both from ezyCollect and from the accounts person, it's all being stored in the activity history. And this is really important because, a lot of the time, people, when they start using ezyCollect, their previous process was that they had an Excel spreadsheet and they were kind of updating the notes, and so all the historical notes were lost. when you update a cell in Excel. Or they might be using a software like Xero, where you can't really write a note against a customer. You can only write a note against an invoice. And so tracking the history of a customer is quite difficult, let alone if you have to ever send them to debt collection. So since it's all tracked in ezyCollect, it means that if someone's away, someone can easily step in to help chase the customers while the accounts person is sick or on holiday or something like that. And ultimately as well, if you ever do get to the stage of needing to send to debt collection, all of that communication history is automatically going to be sent to your debt collector of choice as a part of the packet of information we send to them when you escalate to debt collection through ezyCollect. So we actually have some debt collection partners that are our preferred suppliers, such as Armour. However, we also do have the ability to send to debt collection whatever debt collector the customer chooses. So this is really like this customer page here. This is really where an accounts person will probably spend the majority of their time on a day-to-day basis. And you're probably wondering, like, what are these little color wheels? So this is actually tied back to the credit risk thing we talked about at the beginning. So not only do we give credit risk at the start of a customer life cycle, but that risk rating might not have stayed the same throughout time. So this is why it's important for us to be able to give an up-to-date credit score on existing customers. So we can see here this customer has a critical lateness when it comes to this particular supplier. And if you want, you can get a comprehensive credit report that will go in more detail about that. But you can also go into the database of ezyCollect, and it'll show all the risk levels for all the customers that have, an ABN or New Zealand business number, or soon we're going to have that offered in the US probably early next year. So with these customers, there's different risk categories that they can fall into. So you can see they've got in this case, they've got a low late payment and failure risk on aggregate, and this is the score that's being provided from the Bureau. But then there's a third factor, which is the history of the customer's behavior in ezyCollect. And so in this case, they're paying this supplier very late, but they're not paying anyone else late. So that's a sign of a relationship issue, like you're being treated by your customer differently from how they're treating everyone else. And sometimes that's because, they're being too nice, they're letting the customers get away with paying late, or it could be just that maybe the emails are going to spam, or maybe there was some dispute that wasn't resolved. So there's a lot of different categories when it comes to the credit risk categories. And in fact, if I go quickly to our dashboard, not only will it look at the existing invoice aging, but we've also got a credit insights dashboard as well that will look at the different categories of risk. And we can send a report to, let's say, the finance manager every 2 weeks. It'll give them an update on this. But there might also be a subset of customers where you don't want to wait for an update every few weeks or every month on the risk score of these customers. You might be a bit more concerned about them. So we have another option when it comes to risk, and we can actually give you daily alerts on customers. Usually you wouldn't put all your customers on daily alerts. You would put maybe your most at risk 10%, that kind of thing. And those ones you would get a notification up here if something happened that would change its risk score, like defaults, going into liquidation, court action, anything like that. And you'd also get an email in your inbox about it too. So that's how we help monitor and track the risk score of existing customers over time. And while we're at this page, this is really how we're going to wrap up. It's just to talk a little bit about reporting. So ezyCollect has a couple of reports that we find particularly interesting. the one that interests me the most is called a detailed customer report. And this looks at not only how overdue a customer is, but it will also look at the most recent notes against them. So let me just switch tabs really quick and show you what I mean. So here we can see the detailed customer report. It will look at the pretty much almost all the information that we have on a customer summarized. So we'll look at their credit terms, how much is owing versus overdue versus current, what's the most recent follow-up. It will also look at what was the most recent note against every customer. So in this case, we can see that there was an installment that was due, and it will also show their risk level if you're using the Credit Insights module. So the point of this report is really for situations where you've got a management meeting. So a lot of the time, like we've heard about people that have a finance meeting with the accounts receivable team, and that they have to generate reports in their ERP or update their manager on, why is this account not paid? So to be able to just quickly generate something from ezyCollect where it already summarizes that is, again, saving time for people in accounts receivable, as well as making it easier for management to visualize the status of an account. So we've covered a lot today, and I hope that you can see the way that ezyCollect is able to manage the life cycle of a customer from an accounts receivable perspective, not only once they are an existing customer, but also when you're sending credit application, you're deciding what terms to give them, and also how we actually collect money from the customer, as well as how we deal with chasing customers on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so much for watching. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My name is Laura, and I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.